Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to our first book study, launching the study of Star Wars: Heir to the Empire, the first of the expanded universe books, not chronologically, but first, I believe, first published if you count what comes after Return of the Jedi. But with me, as always, is my trusty TA, Big Al. Say hi, Al. Do you have a Star Wars name for us this time around?
Um, um, I'll just be Al.
Okay. Excuse me, still getting over this cough, but it's much better now. Actually, of course, the rib's worse, but the cough is better, so that's wonderful.
Yeah, sorry about that, dude.
It's man, rib injuries really stink. To those who don't know, I'll just banter a little bit while people are coming in. I had a really bad, chest cold, and I coughed really poorly one time, like stretching while I did it. It was just bad. Anyway, I think I bruised a rib or something. It was, it was a little painful, but not a big deal. I could still move and, whatever. And then one night I just woke up. I don't know if I twisted wrong in my sleep or I coughed in my sleep or something. I don't know. Something happened and it is like, it's straight up cracked now, at least. I can't stand up all the way straight. I can't walk around for too long before having to sit back down again. It's like, it's legit broken ribs. So it's not fun at all. So I'm just sitting here slumped in my chair and here we go. Still up for a book study though.
I'm lucky. I'm lucky. I'm awake actually after the day I've had.
Oh yeah. Stranded at your doctor's office for a while there. And...
yeah. Sat up a lot longer than I should have. My body feels it too. So
yeah. So welcome everybody, and I do see some channel members there. Matchstick joined us as a channel member. Welcome. And yeah, that's going to be this weekend. I'm going to go ahead and I posted the poll last night. I'll go ahead and post a decision on that when we're going to hold our rewatch of My Hero Academia, start through the first 2 episodes and start talking about heroic archetypes and how they apply to the show and everything. So we'll be doing that this weekend. But excited to pour through Heir to the Empire. It's going to be a lot of fun. So Hi, Nanette. Welcome. Yep, I got to take care of myself. I know. Welcome, Troy Bocelli, Paladin Demo, Eduardo M. Welcome. Sound Engraver. So it's going to be fun.
Auditor Dread saying my possible Star Wars name, Alcius Crumb. I always went with Al. Anytime I did a Star Wars thing, I always said Albaka.
I would love for somebody to alter an image and put you as Jabba the Hutt and me as Salacious Crumb on your.
Well, you now put it out in the universe.
I have, yeah. We'll see.
But do we Wonka?
Welcome, Stephen Cruz. So, yeah, welcome. So, Star Wars: Heir to the Empire. As I was saying, there had been Star Wars books before, but as is my understanding, and Troy qualified or confirmed this for me last night, that this was the first one after Return of the Jedi to be written to continue the adventures of our beloved characters here. Now, of course, after this book was written, plenty of books were written in comics and whatnot that filled in the gap between actual Return of the Jedi. I think the Treaty of Bakura, is that what it is? Like takes place right on the heels of the Ewok celebration, like literally. But for a long time, if you were just living through the 90s there, and this was it. This was the first one to have. So I want to keep that in mind as we go through the book, because we're looking at what Zahn did. Timothy Zahn really just painstakingly, carefully, wonderfully crafted this book, and he did it in such a way that's just you can tell that the Disney writers, J.J. Abrams, whatever, just totally blew out the window and didn't worry about any of the things that he was worrying about here. And I just want to call attention to what a wonderful job it was as we go through. So it's been about 5 years since Return of the Jedi, as we open up with our characters here. And even though that's filled in later as to what happened, your reader in the day wouldn't have known anything but Return of the Jedi and now this. So, Truce of Bakura. Sorry, I said treaty. Yeah. And Al, you said you had read these way back in the day, right? Or do you just own them?
No, I own them. Okay. I didn't even know I owned them, and I just found them one day as I was going through stuff.
Very cool.
And I was like, awesome.
Yeah, it's really something. It's it- as I've said to many people, but I know some people are going to come to this video maybe for the first time to my channel because of the content, as EU fans and whatnot. And I'm very new to the EU, relatively speaking. Anyway, it wasn't but a few years ago that I started. That I came to it because I saw everything Disney was doing. I was like, no, I do not accept that. That's what happened to my beloved characters and universe after the original trilogy. So I turned to the Thrawn trilogy first off, and it was just so magical, just going in and picking up with all these characters. And it's 5 years later, but they're exactly where you think they should be with their character developments as they've lived through the original trilogies timelines. And it's really, we're going to go into some of the specifics of what Zahn does, but he's a great writer, really amazing writer, and he's a great guy too. I've met him at a con, like I was saying recently, and even served on an authors panel with him, and he was really, really cool to talk to and talk about this. Now he has written he's still being hired by Disney, so he is writing books now under their new continuity, which I don't agree with myself. Some people are okay with mixing these continuities. I've seen them, on the number of the expanded universe groups that I'm involved with on Facebook or different places on the internet, and they'll be showing like some of Zahn's new Thrawn books or something like that, and say, see, if you ignore this chapter here, it actually fits in with the original continuity. I just pass. I don't like to play that game because it's, as a writer myself, I understand that you're in the spirit of it. You got to be in the it doesn't fit. I've read Outbound Flight, and I've read the new Thrawn book that he wrote, and the two contradict each other left and right, and they just don't max up. I just don't see it how it works. But I'm not going to begrudge him making a buck because I'm sure he gets a good pretty penny from it. And the Thrawn book I read that takes place in the new continuity was incredibly well written, even if it's not a continuity I care to follow. It was incredibly well written. So Timothy Zahn is the man. He's quite the writer, as I hope to convince people of as we go through and look at some of the specifics. So shall we dig on in out now? Al, you I've read this and I've listened to the audio drama, and I've convinced Al to listen to the audio because that was it the 25th anniversary or not, something like that. The anniversary edition. It's so well done. The music and the voices and everything, the sound effects. Mm-hmm. For me, it really was like stepping back into listening to like I'm watching a movie, just from listening to it instead.
And the guy does a surprisingly good job sounding like the characters.
Each and every one, too, right?
I mean, Leia's a bit,
he's a guy. So.
Yeah, but otherwise, he sounds like Luke. 3PO sounds like 3PO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, really something. Han totally sounds like Han. I thought so anyway.
I don't think. Yeah.
John Hayes says that his Black Collar and Cobra were good too. Yeah, I didn't read those, but yeah, I've heard good things about them. So yeah, let's go ahead and dig in. So we start out with chapter 1, and this trilogy is called the Thrawn trilogy because Admiral Thrawn is our big villain, our big bad guy. So as we start in, you might think that this was by the time this was released, Star Wars fans were just desperately craving more stories. It's 1991, I think, here with these characters they hadn't heard from since Return of the Jedi, and they desperately wanted more and wanted to find out what happened to them and what are they doing next. And yet we start out in chapter 1 not with Luke, not with Leia, not with Han, not with any of them, but with this captain, not even with Thrawn, the new big baddie. We start out with Captain Pelia. This is the narrative perspective we're in to begin with. And I think this is really a genius idea, because what he lets us do, let's talk about, first of all, the idea of Pelion before we really talk about Thrawn. We know that Thrawn's going to be this super master genius tactician and all of these things. And Thrawn is basically, he's kind of like a detective archetype. He is a detective archetype, but for a villain rather than a hero. And if you remember my videos on detective archetypes, they need to be so beyond in the reader and their genius. They need to be so out of touch with the reader because that's what draws us towards them. We're so drawn towards their amazing ability like that. But we need some go-between between us and then that character, So you think about like the Sherlock Holmes has to have a Watson, so to speak. And, we need somebody that we can sometimes we can feel a little bit superior too, because we're thinking, oh, we've got the detective figured out or whatnot. So Pelions are perfect. He's the Watson to Thrawn. He's our perfect go-between, and it makes sense that he's the captain of the ship that the Grand Admiral is taking up his seat upon. So that works out perfectly in terms of rank and everything. You guys say
the Chimera.
Great. I was gonna. Yeah. What is a Chimera?
The Chimera, kind of like a mishmash of genetics of animals and humans, and
it's a yeah. Well, I mean, technically in Greek mythology, it was like the lion's body, the snake's tail, all this amalgamation.
It's a genetic amalgamation of all kinds of
but
stuff.
in common parlance, it comes to take on the meaning of a creature that you can't quite define. There's so many different parts of it. Like some parts are familiar, but you can't quite define what it is. That's the common, meaning of it, and just in general language. And that's a perfect name for the ship that Grand Admiral Thrawn is seated upon, right? Because he himself is a chimera. We don't really know much about the. Oh shoot! I'm blanking on the name of his race that you don't find out anyway right now. But
and the Chimera is just a regular Star Destroyer, correct? It's not well because they talk about the loss of the Super Star Destroyer.
Yeah, they lost the Executor, which was the big deal. I don't know. No, I don't follow. You know me. I don't follow ship stuff.
I always called it Executor, which just sounded more. Yeah, it sounded more vicious.
Huh. Yeah, Executor. I guess.
Executor as opposed to Executor.
I always thought Executor because it's the executive ship. Yeah, whatever. Chiss, thank you, Mr. Matchstick. The Chiss was Thrawn's race, yeah. So he's this, and no one really knows much about the Chiss. No one knows much about Thrawn himself. He's the only non-human to be granted the rank of Grand Admiral by the Emperor, formerly. So it's a big deal. So we open with Captain Pelion. That's a really cool. Now you run the risk of losing your reader if you're going to open a story like this where people are dying to find out what happened to their heroes who are in this. Hey, Troy's giving us the information there. Al, he says the Chimera is an Imperial I-class Star Destroyer. Or first class? Is that first class or I don't know ship stuff.
It's your basic Star Destroyer look, basically.
Okay. All right. So John Hayes says I'm not seeing other chats. Oh, yeah. If you have to sometimes you have to switch over your chat to live chat. If there's too many people in here, it'll automatically result to top chat, and that'll only show you some chats, but not everybody. So if you change over your function there to live chat, then you'll see everything that people write.
Bloody annoying. I hate.
I know. I hate it when it does that. I'm always forgetting to switch that over. So we open with Pelion. But what I like is that Zahn wastes no time. Everything that Timothy Zahn does is multitasking as a writer, and that's really incredible. That's what you want to be as a writer. And this is something that comes from drafting, revising. This does not always take place in your first draft. It's something you have to really layer into your drafts as you go back and revise them. So, for example, as we meet Captain Pelion, as we get to know him, we're going to find out this scene does the work for us, telling us whose ship is on, what happened to the Empire since the rebellion blew up the Death Star and everything like that, and the Executor and all that kind of stuff, the Emperor's death. We find out everything like that. We know that they're out in sort of the frontiers of space there, or the wilderness of space, whatever. I forget exactly how they call it, the fringes. We find out that the recruits, the Empire is having to basically impress a lot of soldiers and officers on the ship. And impress, I mean, like the old term, the naval term of impressment, like forcing them, not like, hey, you guys, check out the somersault.
in another term, like conscription.
Yeah, conscription. Yeah, often by threatening their families, sometimes even. So as a result, the Empire has a lot of highly trained but very young officers, and they don't have the experience. And Pelion is an old guard captain, so he's lamenting this, and we get to see a little bit of Pelion. His, as a just speaking to what we have so far, even though he's a bad guy, you do come to appreciate him a little bit. Like you can get this little bit of interiority of the character. Like he laments the fact that these young officers around him don't really know how to act, and yet at the same time he's not overly harsh with them. He's disciplines them as he needs to, and he laments the fact they're not more experienced, but he's not a mean-spirited trying to torture them either, which is so even though you're writing in the bad guy's perspective, it's at the beginning of the book, you have to hook people. You don't want to turn people off of this guy too. So I think it does a good job with that. Would you say so?
Yeah, I actually found myself, like I said, it's hard. I mean, you immediately know he's an Imperial, so Imperial equal villain.
Yeah,
but there's kind of a just that old school Navy attitude. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. He's just he's doing his job, which I know is like back in the 40s was kind of a not a good thing. I was just doing what I was ordered.
Yeah,
not a good thing to do. But I like. And there was the one part he said where you were talking about how he treated the officers, and when the one guy like yelled across the ship. And he's like, this isn't the market.
This is not a cattle market in Shanghai, Lieutenant Tashel.
Right.
He said at last, keeping his voice calm but icy cold. This is the bridge of an Imperial Star Destroyer. Routine information is not, repeat, not simply shouted in the general direction of its intended recipient. Is that clear? Yeah, I love that.
So it was, I guess not overly harsh, but very straightforward, and like don't do it again, but done in a very professional way.
Yeah,
and I kind of like that about him.
Yeah, and so when you get that little hint of him, but then you get a little bit more when you find out that his thoughts about the fall of the Empire in terms of the Emperor's death and the Death Star being destroyed, and it talks about how the it says here, slowly Pelion let his eyes sweep across the bridge, feeling the echoes of old anger and hatred twist through his stomach. There had been many commanders in the fleet he knew who had seen the Emperor's original Death Star as a blatant attempt to bring the Empire's vast military power more tightly under his direct control, just as he'd already done with the Empire's political power. So now, for the first time, really, we're getting some cracks in the solidarity of the Empire. As the Emperor held it together. The Emperor was evil enough. Darth Vader, his plans for Vader, the dark side of the Force. The dark side of the Force was the villain, of that original trilogy, and it was a glorious villain. So it really just wouldn't make any sense to create another Dark Force user that you guys never heard about, who's going to be your main villain in the next trilogy too. It just that wouldn't work. We got Dark Force coming in places, but that your main villain has to be something new. So how do we do that? Well, we show that there was a faction within the Empire who was never really happy with that kind of nonsense anyway. And Pelion's more worried and upset about the loss of the Executor, the ship, and all of the great officers. This is a very practical thing to be worried about. It's not that, the Emperor, the immensely powerful leader's gone. It's not that, the wonderfully powerful weapon is gone. He's mourning the loss of the solid officers that were on that solid ship, which just seems a much more militarily practical thing to be upset about.
Yeah, because I mean, even the way they put it, so even after 5 years, Pelion couldn't help but wince at the memory of the image, the Executor out of control colliding with the unfinished Death Star. I mean, the wince is just like, it really makes it human. I mean, we as moviegoers will watch that and we'll cheer, but like you said, there's thousands of people on that ship that were just doing their job. They went to work every day just hoping to,
And you see that Zahn has conditioned us then right away. So then shortly after this, Pelion gets he receives some information that he has to go and enter into Thrawn's chambers now and tell him about this thing that's happened with the library info dump and all of this. So before we go meet Thrawn, we've been conditioned to maybe not think the Emperor and the dark side of the Force and that specific evil and that specific threat was the be all and end all of the threats, right? Pelion himself has conditioned us to think, there were other factions from the Empire that perhaps might need to be dealt with too, so it's not just, so he conditions you for that before you meet Thrawn. And the reason he needs to do that is because Thrawn is not a Jedi. Thrawn is not a Sith. Thrawn is not a Dark Force user. And a lot of people, especially your casual Star Wars fan who maybe had, you know, seen the movies once a long, long time ago before they picked up this book or whatever, that's what they think evil is in the Star Wars universe, Vader and the Force. And, you know, to sell them on this, this just a regular commander, just another commander of a ship, you know, or admiral or whatever, as a big baddie. They, you know, you're going to have to convince them of this. So he starts out by showing you that, you know, there have been these factions in the Empire, and then the coming into Thrawn's chambers there, that old entertainment center from the last admiral, but now he's converted it into a new command center, and it's dark. You know, it's almost like entering the Emperor's chambers in Return of the Jedi, except that it's you know, this mysterious commander, you know, bosses in there, and it's dark, and you got, you know, first the encounter with Rook, the Nogri bodyguard, you know, which is creepy, and then you know, Thrawn, and then you get this description of the blue skin, the black hair, and then it eventually opens his eyes and those red glowing eyes. I mean, that's a creepy dude.
Yeah, I do want to I do want to say the one part here just before he enters into Thrawn's chamber, and basically just what's going through his mind, and kind of like really sets it up very well, I think. It's like, here under the command of possibly the greatest military mind the Empire had ever seen, Hellion smiled, a tight wolfish smile, as he again looked around his bridge. No, the end of the Empire was not yet, as the arrogantly self-proclaimed New Republic would soon discover.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's definitely like, you know, this, you know, they think they've won this great battle, but they'll soon know that it's a different.
Yeah,
there's a different. There's going to be a different thing out there. There's still an Imperial presence.
It's a great setup, yeah, to show you that, you know, the threat's still there, and the fact that what remains of the Empire wouldn't really be a threat if not for Admiral Thrawn. You know, as he says this Pelion, you know, gives some information about Thrawn's background, you know, within the Empire. So during the whole original trilogy, the reason we never heard about Grand Admiral Thrawn is because he was out in the fringes of space. It says he, with Thrawn himself, for that matter, probably why the Grand Admiral had spent so much of his career out in the unknown regions, working to bring those still barbaric sections of the galaxy under Imperial control. His brilliant success had won him the title of Warlord and the right to wear the white uniform of Grand Admiral, the only non-human ever granted that honor by the Emperor. And Pelion had often wondered how the Battle of Endor would have ended if Thrawn, not Vader, had been commanding the Executor. You know, so really, that's a great line right there. It tells you this crap. You know, this dude is bad. This dude is, you know, he could have perhaps been more of a menace, a non-Force user. You know, of course, he's not Luke's father, and that helps too. You know?
Yeah, you get the idea that he's basically Patton. Like he was the one that they needed to have there forming the strategy, as opposed to someone who may not have been as strategically minded or tactical minded.
Yeah. And then we get to see Thrawn in action. So it's one thing, you can build up, you can prepare us for this, and you can tell us about his accomplishments and how, you know, how badass he is and everything. But it's not going to do much unless you show us. You got to show us, you know, how is he such a threat? How is he this, you know, that? And then we see this in this battle that he executes, and he learns about races from their art. Again, he's a detective, right? He's, you know, a villain, but he's the detective villain. He's trying to gather intel. He's trying to learn things, and he realizes that this is how they'll respond to this one maneuver here. And this, and in effect, he completely wipes out all of the ships that are gunning for them there. And he even sacrifices one of his own very coldly and very calculatingly in order to get this information. And that's the point I want to point out. Whereas the dark side of the Force is all about passion, right? It's about giving into that anger, the rage, the passion. Thrawn is the exact other end of the scale of villainy. He is cold and calculating. You know, his skin is blue. You know, I like that contrast there. He's cold. He's calculating. He's going to gather the information. He's not feeling about this. He's just going to, you know, there's no angry outbursts or rage. It's a cold kind of villain, and that's really the tactical villain that you would need to try to bring back the Empire from this. So I thought that was a brilliant little maneuver that he did. Were you able to follow that okay?
Pretty. I mean, fairly.
I don't know much about. I'm sure maybe some of this is actual naval or military terminology, but it could be all made up for all I know. But this Marg Sable maneuver and fake outs and stuff, I don't know anything about that. But I still was generally able to follow along with what was going on to applaud Thrawn and be like, wow, that's.
I mean, battles are always about fake outs and false information and feeding the enemy false information or tricking them into a situation where they think they have the advantage, but they actually don't. I mean, anybody who knows like the battles of like Midway, and Midway was much like that. It was all trickery. I mean, we came out on top. But you were talking. I mean, you're talking about Thrawn. You know, he's willing to sacrifice a ship. That's a classic chess player. You know, and that's if you get. I mean, if you play a good a guy like this who you can see as a chess player who's willing to like sacrifice the pawn in order to get the knight, or something like that. You got to watch out for that. That's somebody who's going to be you got to really watch out for.
Exactly, yeah, and that's his it's experience basically. It's incredible amounts of experience going up against our heroes who are defined by their lack of experience in general. I mean, the New Republic is the New Republic trying to get its feet out from under itself. Luke is a relatively new Jedi, all things considered. Still, it's still trying to figure things out there. Han is still trying to figure things out, no longer being a smuggler. And so and Leia is dealing with the diplomatic aspects of the New Republic and stuff. So it's experience versus inexperience.
Yeah, I mean, well, it tells you with the fact that even just after a short period of time, you got someone like Han Solo and Lando Calrissian are generals. Already, and the rebellion. It's like, okay, like 6 months ago, this guy was like shooting a Greedo in the face in a bar.
Yeah, and it was great to see. Again, we see Thrawn's triumph there through the eyes of Pelion, so that kind of helps us walk us through what's going on, which is another good use of that literary device there. So we move on to chapter 2. We can't spend too much time. We have to establish that new threat, pique our interest about it, but we can't tarry there too long because, like I said, readers want to rejoin the characters they love and to find out what's going on. And we start with Luke, and this is really wonderful. Starting with Luke, we're on in Luke's dream here. And the fact that he starts with Luke's dream, once again, Obi-Wan is appearing to Luke. He can only appear to him in a dream right now because of the distance that is between Luke and Obi-Wan at this point. So it's not a Force ghost literal vision, but it's a vision coming within a dream. And he also tells him, this is the last time you and I are going to be able to meet for at least a very long time. He must cross over at this point. He's tarried too long and he has to cross over. So we need to see Luke step out of the father's directions and really completely into his own choices again. Now we've seen that through the original trilogy in different step by step. He meets Obi-Wan, but then Obi-Wan's taken from him. He's trained by Yoda, but then Yoda's taken from him. But even through all of that, he's had the guiding voice of Obi-Wan, through there. So now we put to bed the guiding voice of Obi-Wan here, but it's done in a way that honors the fans and their love for Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan's love for Luke. I love it. It says, you've been, I've loved you as a son, as a student, and as a friend until we meet again. May the Force be with you. I mean, it's perfect. He's not killing off anything. He's not coming in and recklessly, shaking everything up or saying Obi-Wan's gone forever. Ha. No, he's this gentle but firm, close to this chapter for Luke's life. Luke needs to do, he needs to step out of this influence of the guiding voices now and really start doing things for himself. But see Obi-Wan again at some point. So that's a great send off, and it sets up our hero for his next stage. All of this. Go ahead.
So it's a great way to get closure, I think, to be able to have a Force ghost come to you, and give you those last little bits of wisdom you need. Just like he was he told him, you must never relax your guard. The Emperor's gone, but the dark side is still powerful. Never forget that.
Yeah.
And then he says, you will yet face great dangers, Luke, but you will also find new allies at times and places where you expect them least.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
yeah, and it's people when the Last Jedi came out and people were saying that one of the defenses people were trying to say, this is what you need to do with this is the next part of a hero's journey. What Luke had to go through, you can't just what else do you do after you've done the original? Oh my gosh, what kind of nihilistic, cynical life do you lead and worldview do you have? This is you don't have to throw everything away and go depresso hermit man after you've achieved something in your life. No, this is the next step here is to, you step in a little bit deeper and you take on a little bit more independence and so forth. And this is perfectly done. And as Ben tells him here, he says, Luke has a moment where he says that he thinks I'm alone. I'm the last of the Jedi. And Ben's last fading voice there is not the last of the old Jedi, Luke, the first of the new. And that really sets the whole tone and theme for the rest of Luke's adventures in life in the EU. And it's a wonderful, wonderful line. It's such a great thing to really establish from the get-go. It's beautiful. So, and then we have the little visit by 3PO again, letting people know, hey, 3PO is still around. All of these characters that you loved and lived through their journeys and adventures with, and you invested in. You invested your emotions and time into these characters and their journeys, and they ended up together and everything was fine. We're not going to come and just throw a bomb into all of that first thing into a story, just a ha-ha, look what we can do now. No, that's ridiculous. C-3PO is still there, and you get the little despite his mood, Luke couldn't help but smile. 3PO's attempts to be simultaneously helpful, inquisitive, and polite never quite came off, not without looking vaguely comical anyway, So the little things you love about these characters are still there. And then 3PO doesn't like the mention of Lando, when he talks about Lando talking, introducing him to the hot chocolate or whatever, because of how they met and everything. So,
I like the fact that cup of hot chocolate is such a new and exotic thing.
Yeah, an exotic drink that Lando introduced to. Hot chocolate. Yeah, so it's so we meet Luke. We get to we also set up a few things. Like I said, Zahn doesn't leave anything just fulfilling one task. He multitasks and layers with these different things. So Luke is lamenting the fact that he's not going to hear from Obi-Wan again, and he thinks back to the last time that he saw Yoda, and then he thinks back to, this is perfect stream of consciousness. This makes all sense. But he says he shivered, and not from the cool night air. This place is strong with the dark side, because now he's thinking of Coruscant, and all of the evil that's been there with the Empire, and how he didn't sense any evil residue left, though. But he still, it just makes him uneasy a little bit, and this puts him in mind of the cave on Dagobah. Yoda had said that the cave on Dagobah, the cave where Luke had gone in to fight the lightsaber duel with Darth Vader, who had turned out to be Luke himself. For weeks afterwards, the memory of the sheer power and presence of the dark side had haunted his thoughts. Only much later had he finally realized that Yoda's primary reason for the exercise had been to show him how far he still had to go. Still, he'd often wondered how the cave had come to be the way it had. Wondered whether perhaps someone or something strong in the dark side had once lived there. We'll put a little pin in that because that's going to come back. But we already see that theme being developed here about, is there some sort of consequence we're going to face to setting up our shop here, our base here on Coruscant where the Empire was? Is that going to be a problem? And then, you got this idea of the dark side infecting places it inhabits, so we're building on that theme, but it all makes sense with Luke's thoughts. So we just kind of multitask that. I can't tell you too much more without it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing you skipped over was, I love the fact that the reason why 3PO was there in the first place.
Yes.
That Leia was kind of reaching out with her force powers to check on her brother.
Exactly. Good.
And then when he's like, show off.
Yeah.
Just showing off her new Jedi skills.
Yeah, that's part of letting you know that the whole team is still together. Luke and Leia, they're still very close. You even find out now that Leia's pregnant. and still Princess Leia, none of this General Leia crap, all this kind of stuff. We're going to talk about Leia and how the book treats Leia here in a second, because she's the next character. In this chapter 2, visiting our main characters again, Zahn establishes these are still your 3 main characters, Luke, Leia, and Han. All of the other characters around, they're going to come in and be strong central players as well here, but the real journeys, the real progressions, are going to be following those around Luke, those around Leia, those around Han, and so forth. So that's good too. Even if readers don't consciously pick up on that, our minds do in their search for order. When we're going through a narrative, we look for stuff like that. Even subconsciously, we look to be told what characters or what things to really follow to kind of make everything else make sense in the wake of, and so forth. So we switched to Leia. Did you want to say anything more about Luke's scene there?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay, I'm just making sure I didn't have anything else. Okay, I got that there. So Leia, we go down a couple levels to her where she's in bed there, pregnant with her twins, and she's soothing them. I want to talk about this. So I think it's really horrible that he could have shown Leia as finally a strong, independent woman, but he just had to show her as a mother, just a pregnant mother too. How horrible is it? That's ridiculous. Of course, that's what today's feminist SJW agenda would look at this story. They would just roll their eyes until they rolled straight out of their head because we dared show this strong, independent, heroic woman as a mother. How dare her subjugate herself to such a thing? No, she's got to be a general and an independent divorcee or what? Just screw you.
How dare she show that she could be one of the most beautiful and powerful things on the face of whatever planet she may be on.
Yeah. How dare we show that she can create life within her? I mean, this is just ridiculous. And but that's all that kind of lens. That's all the feminist theory lens would see. The feminist theory, I'm talking about the critical theory of feminist theory, would look at this and say, oh, she's learning from her brother, so she's under a man, and she has to stay there on Coruscant while her husband goes off on the adventures, and she's just staying there pregnant. Oh, that's horrible. And how completely blind and ridiculously ignorant in every single way is that? But that's how the feminist theorist reads things. They read things with these preset goggles on. They don't actually look at anything that's there on the page. They just look at what they want to get angry about. And none of that's true here. She has probably the most important job of them all, which is the diplomacy there on Coruscant, which makes 100% sense for her character, having grown up as a royal on Alderaan, and learning all of that, the diplomacy and everything like that. She's the right person for this job. She's doing this all while pregnant with twins, which is damn heroic in itself, right? And I'm saying that as a guy, and I don't even know, So worrying about her brother, all of this while training in the Force and training in the Jedi way from Luke when she can find time. So this is impressive. This is a big deal. It's a wonderful way to reintroduce ourselves to Leia, and we see that Han and her are still together. They're not going to waste the investment we had with that. That was utterly ridiculous to say. And I know even Lucas wanted to do this in some ways if he was going to write it, but I'm glad that he didn't. I'm glad we got the expanded universe here to show us this, because you can't invest somebody in a love story like that, and then just because you're tired of it as the writer, the next time you want to introduce people to them, say, yeah, that's over now. No, they split up. No. That's you have an obligation to your readers, to your audience. If you're going to start something, you got to finish it, and so forth.
Yeah, no, that's why I don't want to watch Paul Blart Mall Cop 2.
Yeah.
Broke him up. They took away the life.
Yeah, that's what bothered me about.
But then,
go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, but then we get introduced to her attendant.
Yes,
who has quite a familiar name.
Yes. Yes, Winter, right? Yeah. But that's a perfect point here, because we wanted to hear from our heroes. We were able, and the readers they'll kind of sense, okay, we do need to find out the threat. We do need to find out the villain. So they'll bear with you while you do that, as long as you don't take too long, and Zahn didn't. And then we jumped right into Luke and 3PO and Leia. Perfect. We're meeting our heroes. But you still have to be sparing. Now, you're going to have to introduce new characters. You can't take the story in new places and new ways and just not, only work with things that we've known before. You got to give us some new stuff, but you need to be tactical about it. And Winter is the perfect first new character for us to meet in terms of our heroes. She's the first hero, good guy character we meet in this book. And she's the perfect first step because she's a new character to us, Winter, but she's not new to Leia. She's a childhood friend of hers on Alderaan. She has this wonderful ability, this photographic memory. She never forgets anything or never forgets a conversation or anything like that. So that makes her intriguing. And she's loyal to Leia. So immediately we like her for that. We appreciate her because of how loyal she is to Leia. So it's a wonderful way to sell us on a new character by showing how much she's esteemed by one of the characters we already love.
Yeah. Plus the memory, they said that came in very handy during any kind of diplomatic situation.
Yeah.
Because she does remember everything.
Exactly. Basically, they're just recording things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have throwbacks too. We know that Mon Mothma and Admiral Akbar, they're still there. She said, "Yes, I know, Leia agreed," but that's also so. This is a nice little line too. Talk about multitasking and layering in the different, having dialogue. They're talking about what could possibly be wrong with Luke. All right, that's all they're talking about. But in having their conversation carry out in this manner, it gives us a lot of exposition too as a reader. It tells us a bunch of things that have been happening over the last 9 weeks. And it's done naturally because it makes sense that they would talk about this, but you got to be careful when you try to pile exposition into dialogue. So they're trying to figure out what's wrong with Luke. And Winter says, perhaps it has something to do with your pregnancy. Winter suggested 9 weeks ago would put it just about right. Yes, I know, Leia agreed, but that's also about the time Mon Mothma and Admiral Akbar were pushing to move the government seat here to Coruscant. Also about the time we started getting those reports of the Borderlands about some mysterious tactical genius having taken command of the Imperial fleet. She had her hands out, take your pick. So that's great. It makes sense that they'd be talking about that, and she could easily say that because they're trying to figure out which of these is the problems of Luke, but it's also giving us that information. This is the time frame. This is everything that's taking place right now, setting the scene for the drama to go forward. And that's perfect writing. That's just really concise, economical writing, which I think is laudable. It establishes that absolutely her and Han are married, let alone see her husband, so he talks about that.
But she doesn't quite like him going out on these missions while she's,
Well, yeah, she misses him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, gasp, missing her husband. No, she wants to go do out her own thing. But yeah, she, but you know what? It's not this that she's stuck at home playing housemaker. When he's around, even she can't see him because of all the incredibly important things she's doing there in the capital. So, yeah, great setting up there of tension and everything. So, did you have anything else you want to say about Leia there? Or are we ready to move on to Han?
No, I'm good. I'm just,
we jumped to Han now. He's been what did Leia say? Leia said he was off on a
contact mission.
Contact mission, yes. That's all we know at this point about what Han's doing until we jump to the scene. And then I love where we place Han. We go back to see Han now, and again, it's maybe it's a little fan service, whatever, but it works for it. It makes perfect sense for the for literally what he's there to do. He's back on Tatooine. He's back in the cantina. Exactly where he was when he first met Luke and Obi-Wan, and that's perfect. He and Chewie are there, but they're there for a very different reason now. And it talks about, looks like much the same place, although the Hutts, Hutt no longer rules, obviously, and his other people are there. So different players in the smuggling game are there. And he's there now as a representative of the Republic. And we find out that he and Lando had been generals, but they resigned those posts. Wasn't quite a good fit. We'll hear more about that a bit later. But he's there trying to. Well, actually, what is he trying to do, Al? So I can save my voice for a second.
Man, you threw me the ball. I wasn't ready to catch it.
What's his mission now?
I'm trying to remember.
He's meeting Dravis.
Yeah, he's meeting Dravis. Oh, Jesus.
He's meeting Dravis to offer him a job. He's trying to offer the smugglers if they will. The New Republic needs cargo ships.
Okay, yeah, the cargo ship. Okay, yeah, I couldn't. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember.
That's okay. That's okay. He's they're growing. They've got a need for ships. They've got a need for all of these things. And Han is trying to interest the smugglers, all of his old gang, the smugglers, into possibly running cargo for the New Republic. They'll pay them and everything.
Yeah, because with the downfall of, like, you know, the huts and everything like that, they're, you know, smugglers need to put food on the table. You know, this is actually a way of doing it kind of an honest way.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah, he says if you ever want to go straight, you know, here it is. And I'm trying to look for this one part. I agree with Jared Weaver says Zahn does great justice to Han's character. I 100% agree. And there's little things written in, like you have sure, Dravis said with a grin. As soon as you and Chewie put your, he asked them to sit down. You know, sit down at the table. Sure. As soon as you and Chewie put your hands on the table, Han gave him an injured look. You know exactly what that look is. You've seen Harris before give it so many times in the movies, you know. So this is somebody who's writing to the actors' portrayals, you know, very well. That like, who, me? I wouldn't do that. You know, that kind of thing. It's just total Han Solo, you know. And you've got Han Solo himself, who's, you know, this is his character progression. He was a smuggler. There's a time when he would have reacted like Dravis is reacting. And Dravis is reacting, look, who cares? Republic or Empire, that's just another government. They're just there to for us to get around and try and make money in spite of because of the tariffs and so forth. And it's a big deal. And now you have Han trying to convince somebody who's basically the kind of person he was way back at the beginning of the original trilogy that no, the New Republic's going to be different. They're not going to levy the kind of tariffs, you know, that would, push smugglers and stuff like that. They're not going to keep doing that, you know? And, so it shows his progression, but it also shows him still not 100% team player. You know, he's resigned his general's commission. That's not really for him, you know. He's, and we'll see as we follow his character and his decisions and his journey a bit more here. He's still very much his roguish kind of independent streak self, but he's just not going to go back on the good guy decisions he's made.
Yeah, he's kind of like an independent contractor.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like Hans. Yeah, how dare you cough on my stream, Al? It's unacceptable in every way. I like that Dravis. So you've gone respectable. And I think Han was getting ready to give another one of those looks. He's like, "Don't give me that look," and you know what look he's talking about. But he says, "What does he say? You're a general in a republic. You've married a princess. You've got twins on the way." And Han's like, well, the general thing isn't so much the thing anymore. You know, like all the other things is, you know, quite there. So Han's going to have to spend a lot of this 3-book story arc kind of reconfronting his past and situating himself in his new life, what it is, not 100% playing by the rules. Okay, now I'm altered into a little good boy, you know, Republic guy again, but he's also not a bad guy, and he's not, you know, he's a team player, but he's still that independent, roguish Han that we love. So we still see that. We still see Chewie here next to him, you know, always at the side of Han, which is great. We even are reintroduced to our good friend Wedge Antilles, also working there. And even though this doesn't work out, Dravis doesn't accept their offer, but it's just about all that Han could have expected. He said, you know, he just laid it out there for them to at least go tell the buddies and have them think about it. That's about all he could offer. And everything comes back full circle, though, because we started out with Pelion and Thrawn out there in the fringes of space there, in the Aloman. Am I pronouncing that right? The Aloman task force or whatever that was lost, the ones that Thrawn conquered out there with his tactics and everything like that. Now we're going to have Han go back, swing through that area of space on his way back to Coruscant to investigate. So again, we're keeping to the points. This is one problem that writers of big epic, you know, so especially something like a fantasy or a science fiction epic or fairy tale kind of thing like this anyway, they'll have the tendency to just start pouring too much in from the beginning, branching off on a number of different branches. And you see how there is a lot of new things going on, and we're following a couple of different, a handful of characters in these couple of chapters, and yet it's all centered around that event. Everything keeps coming back to that event that we saw in that first chapter, which was Thrawn revealing himself a little bit and taking out that whole task force there in the fringe. So this is what's going to call these characters back to investigate. Everything's kind of tying back to that trunk, which is the threat of Thrawn. So that's going to be our spine of this story, and all of the cool stuff, all of the character progressions and all of the cool things that happen and all of the neat moments and everything are all going to be vines around that trunk. And that's a good way that's how you construct a proper narrative, a proper hero's journey, and so forth. So we just have a solid beginning with these first 2 chapters.
Well, I also like the fact that part of the smuggler thing. I was just looking here. Part of the smugglers have some issues with the Calamarians.
Yeah,
because they were extra tough on them.
Yeah. And that's go ahead.
So Dravis can blather all he wants about profit and excitement, but you offer them secure maintenance facilities, no Jabba-style skimming, and no one's shooting at them, and they'll get interested.
Yeah. Auditor Dread has to take off. Thanks for hanging out with us, Auditor Dread. Appreciate having you. I agree with Schooner Tuna. It's not too late to make this trilogy into movies. I know, it's just ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous.
They could, of course.
They'd have to recast, but do it.
Yeah.
Sound Engraver mentioned, Talon Card. Yeah, this is another. He proves to be a great, really intriguing character throughout these books. But you meet, you just have the name drop here. So who's taken the place of Jabba the Hutt? Who's the big guy now? And no one knows for sure, but Dravis thinks it's going to be this guy Talon Card. So it's a nice little way to introduce a possible name of a character there. That's a mysterious way to do it, so that our curiosity's piqued about him, and when we finally do meet him, we're going to be a little bit more interested in him. It's a lot more interesting a way of introducing a character than just once upon a time a man named Talon Card was in a room and blah blah blah. So everything, like I said, it's multitasking. He's setting up characters he's going to introduce later. He's he's tying everything together. It's really, really smart writing. And that's it for these first 2 chapters. Do you have anything else you wanted to say about the chapters themselves?
No, just a good, like I said, everything's getting set up, putting pieces into place, reintroducing to our friends, see what they're up to now.
Yeah.
And the current situation, and getting ready to bounce into the adventure.
Exactly. And we've got the book is. I neglected to do this beforehand to decide exactly how many chapters we should take on for next week. So the book itself is 32 chapters of more or less longer, shorter lengths, depending on the chapters. Let's see what we got directly ahead of us here. Trying to find a good stopping place. Have you read ahead at all?
No.
Okay. We'll at least do 3 and 4, but I'm trying to think. Let's see what happens at the end of chapter. Yeah, let's leave 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
Because 5 is hardly anything at all. 6 isn't much either. Hang on, let me. 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see. 6 takes us to. Sorry, folks. I really should have had this figured out before the stream started, but. Yeah, let's do through the end of chapter 6 for next week. So 3, 4, 5, and 6. They're not very terribly long, especially 5 and 6. Sound like a plan?
Yep, sounds like a plan.
All right. So
next Thursday, or are we?
Thursday's good for me, unless they're bad for you or something.
No, just 11 o'clock's better. Like I said.
Yeah, keep it 11 o'clock for Al's TV schedule.
It was a cool show tonight. Sorry, it was awesome. I actually was very much intrigued tonight because I went through a very similar situation.
It was a what episode?
Of Evil.
The Luke Cage guy. Yeah.
Yeah, the main character had been attacked. His meds were being all screwed up.
Oh, gotcha.
And he was having weird visions. And I was like, I remember that.
Yeah.
I had all kinds of weird things going on in my head.
Yeah. Mohammed has a good question there. Welcome, Mohammed. He says, why do you think that this time period that the books were written so much better? They're better at writing villains. I think because they were actually writing real villains, and they weren't trying to make them all stand-ins for Donald Trump, or stand-ins for the patriarchy, or stand-ins for whatever evil that the in vogue political agenda of the day thinks is in the world. That's that they were actually writing legit villains. That's why I think so. Yeah.
When did this? When was this this book come out? Trying to see what
91, 92, something like that.
that was. What Clinton era?
Yeah. But that was we're just writing a fantasy. We're not writing thinly veiled political allegory. 91. Yeah. So,
Oh no, that was the end of the Bush era into the
so
Clinton era.
So yeah, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for next Thursday. That'll be a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm gonna have the My Hero Academia rewatch this weekend. And that'll be for channel members only. So do click that join button if you haven't already. If you're interested in that, we'll also be doing some members only gaming streams. I'll be streaming some more of Knights of the Old Republic. So keeping the Star Wars theme alive there. Also Knights of the Old Republic 2. I'm going to go ahead and try and go through all of those Star Wars games that are linked and a part of the EU. So we'll be doing some more of that with the members only streams. But you just have to click that join button down there, and you'll get access to the members only posts and the polls and the dates and the actual stream links and everything like that come through there. So it's just have the one tier too. So it's just the $4.99 a month for that. And do have that artist. I just checked with him in before the stream. Actually, need to check in with him and hear back. But about the cool little sketches and stuff like that we're doing to enhance the badges that are available for. Go ahead, Al. For the
badges? Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
Oh man, I heard you breathing funny as soon as I said the word.
And I was like,
that and the emojis are gifts or whatever that are exclusively available to members to be able to post and stuff. So working on enhancing that. So just giving the pitch there. What else is these videos, as soon as I can get a couple more cranked out, I'll be doing that this weekend. What's coming from you got King Kong rewatch on your channel. It says Saturday night, right, Al?
Yep. Saturday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 Central. We will be watching the 1933 classic King Kong with Fay Ray, the lovely Fay Ray, the original big ape.
Yep, I do dearly love Fay Ray too. She was something.
You gonna join us?
I'd like to. We'll see. I can't quite commit to it just yet, but I'll see what's going on and everything for the day. But that'd be nice. It'd be nice to do that. So, Troy, going to be there with you?
I'm assuming. I hope so. I asked. I have an old picture that I did during the BitTunes days, and I wanted to kind of revamp it a little. I asked for a Bitmoji, a certain Bitmoji, and I haven't gotten it yet. But you're in it, which also means I hope that you're part of it.
Oh, cool!
You're in the picture too.
Excellent, cool. Yeah, I can't wait.
Remember.
I agree.
Well, I'll show it to you later.
Yeah, definitely show it to me. You got my interest peak now. But I agree, Age of Boomer, the Age of Boomer channel member too. But yeah, Disney used to have great villains and wonderful villains. Absolutely. Yeah, it was a hallmark. Casey Lurch said they also seem to recognize that villains are still people too. Yeah, they would do that. Yeah. So, so we'll see.
Yeah. I think if you do you like humanized villains, or do you like a villain that's kind of off the crazy train?
I think you need all kinds. It's kind of like I said the time that you got two basic archetypes of villains. You've got your there, but for the grace of God, go I villains, which you can just, they think they're the heroes of their own story or whatever, they are sympathetic. That's the kind that we're seeing way too damn much of today. They're intriguing and you need them, but you also need those elemental villains. You just need those straight up evil villains, not because anybody in real life is just straight up evil, as a human or whatever in every way, but because this is a mythology and we need that personification of evil, because evil does exist in the world. And we need that, we need the evil dragons to be able to slay in our stories to teach us how to, and so forth. And so, yeah, we need those elementally evil villains. And that's why I have such a problem when you take a character like the Joker, for example, and trying, well, it was really just this condition and these bad things that happened to him, and, this kind of stuff. So, So yeah, Sound Graver says, can a villain have an arc like going from sympathetic to elemental? It's to a degree, but if you go to not completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Not in the biggest or the most specific definition of elemental, because it's kind of like the aspirational hero. You know, you can't become an aspirational hero; you simply are that. Now, others might think you're an aspirational hero. That's a whole different other thing. So, yeah, it gets tricky. I guess it's kind of hard to answer without specifics or specific cases or whatever. But I do think we suffer when we take away aspirational heroes as well as elemental villains in storytelling in general. So, all right. So that is our stream for tonight, folks.
Just sending you that picture I was talking about.
Oh, cool. Okay. And thanks for hanging out with us, though. We will be back for more. Oh, yeah, I like that. That's funny. That's funny. That's perfect. Yeah, you gotta use that. That's great.
Yeah, I want to tweak it with put Troy in there.
Yeah, that's perfect. Troy in your hand or something.
Yeah.
Don't want to say too much more. Okay. So, but yeah, this is a lot of fun. I'm glad we're doing Star Wars Heir to the Empire. We'll keep it going. So those next chunk of chapters for Thursday, and we'll be doing more info. Like I said, I'll be finally doing that review, hopefully soon, of Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void, and really going through and reviewing each chronological installment of the EU. And yeah, so thanks for hanging out, guys. Any last words from you, Al?
I need to get Lando's hot chocolate recipe.
There you go. Smooth. All right, folks. Until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.
Hot chocolate.
It's so dirty.